My name is Daniel. I'm 70 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that if you worked hard, loved deeply, and stayed quiet when it hurt, things would somehow balance out in the end. I was wrong. My wife, Sarah, is 65. She has a kind of softness that only comes from a lifetime of giving. She never learned how to say no, not to her children, not to strangers, and especially not to family. For 42 years, I watched her put everyone else first. I used to think that made her strong. Now I know it also made her vulnerable. It started slowly, the way most cruelties do. Our daughter Elisa is 44. When she married, we were happy for her. Truly. Her husband seemed polite at first, the kind of man who smiled just enough to appear decent. But after the wedding, after the photos were framed and the congratulations faded, something changed. Whenever we visited, Sarah somehow ended up in the kitchen. At first, it was small things. "Auntie, could you just help with the dishes?" Then, "Sarah, you make tea better than anyone." Then, without asking at all, plates would appear in front of her. Elisa noticed. I know she did. But instead of stopping it, she softened it with excuses. "He's just traditional, Dad." "She likes being useful, don't you, Mom?" Sarah always smiled, always nodded. And every time she did, a small part of me burned. Mark, our 40-year-old son, saw it too. He would glance at me when Sarah stood up yet again while everyone else relaxed. But Mark had learned the family language well, the language of silence. If you don't speak, you don't have to choose sides. Tom, the youngest at 35, laughed. "Mom's the MVP. He joked once. Nobody works harder." Nobody corrected him. The day that broke me wasn't loud. There was no argument, no shouting, just a moment so quiet it echoed. We were at Elisa's house for a family gathering. The living room was full, laughter, music, glasses clinking. I watched Sarah stand at the sink, her back slightly bent, washing dishes that weren't hers. Her hands moved slowly. She had arthritis now. I knew that. Everyone knew that. No one moved to help her. I stood up and said, "Sarah, sit down. I'll do it." Her face changed instantly. Panic, not relief. "No, Daniel," she whispered. "Please. It's fine. Fine." That word followed me for days. That night at home, I asked her, "Why do you let them do this to you?" She didn't answer right away. She folded laundry carefully, like the answer might wrinkle if she wasn't gentle enough. "Because if I don't," she finally said, "they won't need me anymore." That's when I understood. This wasn't just about dishes, or respect, or tradition. This was about fear. The fear of becoming invisible. So I stopped talking. I didn't confront. I didn't threaten. I didn't raise my voice. I did something far more dangerous. I stepped back. For years, I had been the quiet support behind everything. The emergency money, the late-night calls, the "dad will fix it" safety net. When Mark needed help with rent, I helped. When Tom needed advice, I gave it. When Elisa's household struggled, I covered gaps no one else saw. And suddenly, I stopped. When Mark called about a financial issue, I listened and said, "I trust you'll figure it out." When Tom complained about stress, I said, "I'm sure you'll manage." When Elisa asked Sarah to come help for a few days, I gently said, "Sarah isn't feeling well." And then came the moment that changed everything. A community event. Neighbors. Friends. People who'd known us for years. Sarah was there, sitting quietly, not working, not serving, just sitting. Someone asked Elisa, casually, "Why isn't your mom helping today?" She usually does everything. The room went quiet. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just said, calmly, clearly, "Because she's not to help, she's my wife." The silence was immediate. Heavy. Eyes turned. Faces shifted. Later that week, people started asking questions. Quiet ones at first. Then louder. Is it true Sarah does all the work? Why is she always serving? Does she ever get to rest? I didn't exaggerate. I didn't lie. I told the truth. And the truth has weight. Suddenly, invitations changed. People noticed who sat and who stood, who laughed and who worked. who benefited from silence. Elisa cried when she confronted me. "You embarrassed us," she said. "No," I replied. "I told the truth. The embarrassment came from your actions." Mark apologized quietly. "Not enough." But honestly, Tom stopped joking. And Sarah, my Sarah, began to change. The first time she sat through an entire gathering without standing up, her hands trembled, but she stayed seated. I held her hand under the table, steady and warm. People noticed. Respect returned, not because I demanded it, but because I removed the illusion that everything was fine. The revenge wasn't explosive. It wasn't cruel. It was exposure. And in the end, that was enough. Because the most shocking thing I did wasn't yelling or cutting ties or making threats. It was refusing to let my wife be invisible ever again. And that changed everything.